everyone. You're welcome again to Guiding Voices, our podcast where we sit down and discuss the journey of the people that have been able to merge their learning gap between the African and their Western experiences. Today, we have one of our mentors. He's a Calgary based engineer and he specializes in project management, instrumentation, product certification. He got his bachelor's degree from Obafemi Awolowo University in electrical and electronics engineering, and also a master's in technology management. He's a certified project manager and also a certified Scrum Master. So today we welcome to our studios one of our mentors, Engineer Steve Ayodele. You're welcome today. Thank you
Thank you
for
very much.
coming, and thank you for always giving us time for our students, to be able to give back to Africa. You have successfully been able to bridge that learning gap between your Western and African experience, and you're working now, in a full-fledged engineering space in Canada. And that's why we want to sit down with you to ask you a few questions about your journey so far and how that has been.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to start with my first question, and I would appreciate you spinning it in any way you want and form you may think you want to go with this. And I'll say, could you please share your journey with us from you studying electronics and electrical engineering at Obafemi Awolowo University onto you becoming now a project manager and working in technology innovations?
Thank you for that question. I think my career journey um, started since when I was like a child. Growing up for me, my parents had a friend who was a civil engineer. Um, he had a construction company, and I watched how he struggled with the construction projects that were contracted to his company. So I told myself that I was going to, become an engineer because he was a fine engineer. I said I was going to become an engineer, but I was going to raise the bar by taking management trainings. So at the time I was leaving the high school, technology was already impacting the lives of Nigeria. That was when GSM, newly came to Nigeria. So out of like the programs, engineering programs I could study in the university, I found out like electronics and electrical engineering would be my best option. So I went in and I studied electronics and electrical engineering. However, during my final year at the university, I was headhunted by the Dangote Group. I was headhunted as a project engineer, and that actually endeared me to projects. So I was working alongside with some project experts, and years fast forward, to some years after, I became the head of engineering in a smartphone company where I had the opportunity to manage more than like eight smartphone projects and some other like they call them Wi-Fi kiosks. So I managed that for the company, and currently I work as a project manager in a manufacturing company. The company manufactures all sorts of analytical systems, including gas chromatography, H2S analyzers, nitrogen analyzers, and just to mention a few. And yeah, that has been the journey for me.
Oh, wow. Wow. I think maybe because I also know you kind of personally. I know being a project manager, it's always a lot pulling you there and there and having to talk a lot and do a lot of stuff. And I know that on the side you're very calm, but you only talk when you want to talk. So I would want to ask
Correct.
you that how did you was able to make that space between you having to be calm and having to talk all the time being a project manager?
I will actually say I learned from a lot of people, in the industry. I have mentors who I learned from, and over time, I have been able to like gain a little. I mean, I've been able to like work on myself to actually, push myself out there and communicate when it is necessary. And I think the things that work for me, some of the things that work for me, include active listening, because communication is not just a one-way thing. You want to also understand what the other party is saying. So as much as possible, I try to have like that eye connection with the people, I'm speaking with, try to understand what they are saying. I ask clarifying questions, when necessary. and I try to rephrase what people have to say. Yeah, but I mean, communicating with people is it's I think it's a journey. It's a journey, and it's something that requires continuous improvement. So I would say I'm still working on myself. I read books, I listen to people talk, and when possible, I try to um, I engage with people, I interconnect with people, just to improve myself. Yeah, that's it.
Right. So now, for students that may be aspiring then to maybe develop expertise around analytical instrumentation and things like electronic flow measurement, like you do in your space, what foundational skills should they focus on? Because I know in some schools, for example, like in the school you went to, which is Obafemi Awolowo University, within the electrical space, you do have specialties around power instrumentation, computer, telecoms, and the likes. So for people that might not really have that opportunity to categorically say that they have that specialty to take in school, how would you advise them to kind of, or what foundational skills should they focus on?
I will say that students should focus on like the mastery of physics. They need the knowledge of magnetism and electricity to understand sensor technologies, and as well as process flow technologies. Also, they will require the knowledge of mathematics, to be able to analyze instrumentation data. Yeah, they need to be able to like use field tools like multimeters, to be able to troubleshoot. They need to be able to understand, how a signal generator works, calibration equipment and all sorts. Um, for me, I just instrumentation is a very wide field, and you need diverse skills, diverse knowledge, to be able to function effectively.
Okay, because again, you mentioned magnetism, you mentioned, um, and you remember that, um,
Electricity, magnetism,
yes,
knowledge of, yeah,
and you know that electromag
fluid
is a course that,
mechanism, yeah,
yes, you know, electromag is also a course that people find not funny. Like
that's
it's
correct.
not an easy course. And I'm not going to tell to you in my space where I teach in the university system, teaching electromag, which electromag year one, I'm not going to lie, it takes a lot of brain power from me than teaching year three probability and statistics for engineers. So do you understand? You understand? I'm sure the experience is not different from a third year electromech course in Obafemi Awolowo University. If I should want to take you back to your undergrad studies,
That's right.
so how would you say? Because you just spoke about physics, spoke about electromech just like that, but it's very very abstract, and sometimes students find it difficult to be able to conceptualize it or be able to find meaning and tangibility behind electromech. So what would your
That's
advice
correct.
be? What would your advice be?
I understand. I know like a lot of students they struggle, with the electromagnetic classes. But in the workplace, you're not going to be solving questions, right? You're going to be like troubleshooting. You're going to be like resolving issues, and some of these issues, there are things probably you have seen before, and of course, there will be people to mentor you, at work. People you can always ask questions from. One thing that will never leave you, working in this part of the world is that you need that networking. Sometimes you will run into troubles, and all you just have to do, is to pick your phone and to call somebody. Somebody probably who have actually had a similar experience as you. So it's a different ball game from what we studied in school, and it's just for you to have like the foundational knowledge.
Fundamental.
Yeah, you're not going to be doing pointing vectors or and stuff like that. Yeah, so you're not going to be solving problems, or I mean by calculating or stuff like that. You just need the foundational like knowledge.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you for that. I just wanted you to clear that space also for people that might be, already scared when they hear the word magnetism in physics, electromagnetic, and stuff like that. But thank you for clarifying that. And I know that you are someone that also has Nigeria at heart.
Yeah.
And can you share with us what you think the role of manufacturing will be in the technology space in Nigeria? So, for example, I would say that the role of manufacturing how do you see it evolving in Africa's technological development? Because right now, I know we're mostly consumers, and that's true.
Yeah, yeah,
And considering our population, we're supposed to leverage on that when it comes to, because we have that population, right? We
that's
should
true.
be able to at least be able to be a big hub when it comes to technology and stuff like that. So what do you think? What do you think is going to?
I think I think manufacturing will actually help in technology development in Nigeria. Considering the fact that we are a consuming nation, a consuming people. Most of our hotspots in Africa, they are raw materials which we can actually improve upon, and so I think manufacturing will bring in like that value adding. That it will bring in like the value addition to our raw materials, and we'll be able to make more money, or more direct get more direct investment in times of being able to sell like finished products. Like in Nigeria, for instance, we sell mostly oil and gas products, and these are
Mhm.
not refined products. We sell crude oil, we don't sell the products per se. So but if we are able to improve our manufacturing, I think that will actually diversify our economy. We'll be able to sell like finished products. Also, I see that actually helping us to have more entrepreneurs in Africa, because there are some industries that are heavily dependent on manufacturing. So in a case where when if we adopt technology or manufacturing in Nigeria, I believe it's going to help a lot of our young people that want to go into manufacturing. There are a lot of a lot of technologies today that are not really capital intensive, which people can actually buy into, and that will actually help to improve their business processes. For instance, in this part of the world, a lot of businesses, they go into like 3D printing. 3D printing is not something that is really capital intensive,
Mhm.
but that is actually one of the areas that the world is really looking at this time, at this moment. You want to be able to localize your manufacturing. The items, the tools that you need, you want to be able to manufacture them locally. And these are things that our entrepreneurs or people who have the potential of going into business can actually look into. So yes, technology would or manufacturing will actually help in the technology development of Africa.
Okay. So now that takes me to my question now. So if you look back to your experiences back from Africa, and what skills or knowledge do you wish you had focused on earlier on? Maybe when you were in Obafemi Awolowo University, or maybe when you were in
Yeah,
Dangote, and you look back now and you believe that, oh my God, why didn't I just focus on this? Maybe my life will be a lot better now.
that's true. I think in because I've been working in like design companies, and I feel like one of the skills that would have actually helped me in my journey was AutoCAD design. Yeah, one of the skills that one of the skills that would have helped me would have been like if I'm able to use AutoCAD. Many times we get like design. The company I currently work with, we engineer to order. That means we design for customers, and what we have designed we manufacture. So it would have really helped me if I know how to design things using AutoCAD. I know we did engineering drawing in school, using our drawing boards and T-squares and stuff like that. Yeah. Well, if I had been able, to transition that or to work on that and refine it so that I can actually implement those things, using AutoCAD, it would have actually helped me. Then also, it would have been nice if I knew how to programmable logic circuits. We industries in Canada are especially like automated or oil and gas industries, they rely on automation, they rely on PLCs. So if I'd been able to like learn how to, program, probably using ladder logic or any kind of other language, it would have actually helped me a great deal. There were opportunities I actually lost because, I didn't really have the knowledge of how to program PLCs. So yeah.
Yeah. So now that you're a mentor with WeGuide, what advice would you give to students that are interested in integrating technology and manufacturing together?
Okay, for people that want to integrate manufacturing, sorry, what's the question? Integrate manufacturing with technology, right?
Technology, yes, integrating
I would say
technology,
that
because now you're
technology
talking about
is,
automation, right?
yeah, technology can be very capital intensive. So, and that can actually be a barrier. Because anybody that wants to integrate, technology with manufacturing, that means probably that person wants to be like an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur, I would say that you should start small. So, integrating technology may not really be a good way to start. And if at all you want to rely on technology, you want to probably employ inexpensive technology like the one I earlier mentioned, like your 3D printing, your CNC, and stuff like that. Well, because that can actually be a barrier for you to get into the industry. If you look
Mm,
at, the capital investment that you will need to make before you want to automate your system, you want those things, can cost billions of dollars. So yeah, but for people that want to start a business, like for people that are like young people that want to start a business, they can just look at like the the inexpensive technologies that can actually improve their processes. Yeah.
okay. So before we continue, is it okay to continue?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So what role has mentorship played in your professional development, and how would you approach mentoring others?
Okay, so yeah, I think mentoring has actually helped me a lot. I remember when I first moved to Canada, I applied to many jobs, online, without much success until I attended a mentoring program, and it was during that mentoring program that I realized that there's a particular format that Canadian resumes that they follow. Um, and during the program, I was able to redo my resume, and I started having a lot of callbacks. So yes, in that area, mentoring actually really helped me. And in mentoring others, what I try to do is to understand their career aspirations, what they want to be, where they want to be, and then I try to assess where they are at the
Mm,
moment. Then I try to figure out what the gap is. Okay, you want to be here. This is the gap, and I collaborate with them to fill those gaps. Yeah, that's how I go about mentoring, because the situation, it's going to be subjective. Everybody's not going to be at every point in their career, and people
yeah.
are not going to be aspiring to become the same thing. So I try to
Yes.
identify what people want to be, try to see the gaps, and I collaborate with them
Okay.
to bridge those gaps.
Okay, so my final question. So, what's the most valuable lesson you've learned from working in on diverse teams? So, you've worked on diverse teams from pure engineers to working in executive with managers, and then you've also worked across cross-functional environments. So, from the likes of Dangote and then to oil and gas now, and also you have worked across countries. So, there are different cultures as well. So, what is your most valuable? What's the most valuable lesson, or what are the most valuable lessons you have learned in that journey?
I think the most valuable lessons is like I've learned the importance of active listening and the importance of mutual respect. You're
Mm,
working in an environment where people come from different walks of life, with different experience, with different expertise, and it takes a lot of understanding, a lot of trying to understand what other person is saying, to be able to be able to have to align your effort with theirs. You want to know where they are coming from, you want to know what they are trying to say, because these are people probably working from, I mean, people are in different fields, people in different fields. So they want to have like that mutual respect. Somebody is saying something, you want to know why the person is saying it, why, there might be a reason which probably you may not be aware of. So you want to know the person, you want to understand the person's perspective,
mm,
why the person is saying what he's saying, what is the perspective behind what he has said, and how can you actually come in to help, or to make sure that you come out with something unique. Yeah.
oh, so that's absolutely amazing. I love the way you're able to describe this. Yes, active listening is important. And I think that's very lacking again in Africa. I'm not going to say totally in Africa, but sometimes, we listen to respond. Sometimes
Yeah,
we don't. Yes. A lot of people they just attack, without trying to understand perspective, trying to understand the whys behind conversations. And those are part of the things we're also doing to be able to transform learning in general. And also to make this podcast short, is the end of the year and we're rounding up. And I would just wanted you to just share one last word. One last word, if you give one piece of advice to a young African student that wants to go into the field of, STEM, so science, technology, engineering, mathematics, what would it be?
I
Everybody's
was
talking about everybody's talking
yeah,
about tech now. Everybody's
I
talking about
know.
tech, but tech
Ev-
is not. I don't know.
No,
It's not as
tech is
cheap,
very
right?
lucrative, yeah, but
It's lucrative, obviously, it's the new oil, right?
yeah,
But also it's not for everybody.
yeah, it's very challenging. And so I would tell people to be passive. I mean, people to learn perseverance.
Yes.
Perseverance. The journey will be difficult. I won't promise you that it's going to be a bed of roses, but you need to, to persevere the challenges that would come your way. The expectations may be high. The society, especially like our youth today. The expectations from them is very high from the society. So, and like sometimes many of them, they are open to just a limited resources. So with all of that, they have to, persevere and keep going. It's going to be challenges. It's going they're going to feel like giving up, but they just have to persevere and keep going, and the end will actually pay off.
Will pay off. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the time. And that brings us to the end of our short sit down today. And we hope to obviously meet with you again to talk about other things. And also for people that would like to join our mentorship program, it's free for all students and young professionals in Africa. And if you want to connect with Mr. Steve that we spoke to today, his profile is also on our website, and you can just connect that. You can use the link in the description below to join our mentorship program. And again, thank you for the time today. We really appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
And hopefully we'll see you soon again in our
Sure.
yard, which is our double in our We Guide Learning Initiative yard. See you in the yard. All right
Anytime.
then. Thank you, Lee. Thank you. Bye. Bye everybody, and thanks for joining us.